Friends, welcome to episode number 321. This is the Anxiety Guide podcast. I thank you for joining me here today. If you're enjoying this podcast, please go ahead and give it a positive rate and review on whatever directory you're listening to it on. As well, head over to theanxietyguide.com and learn more about any of my resources that will only contribute to your anxiety healing journey at theanxietyguide.com. And let's get into today's podcast episode, my friends. I decided to go deep into some of the steps that we tend to take during this transition from anxiety to inner peace. And the steps that I'm going to outline, you're going to go, well, yeah, I recognize a lot of me in those steps. And some of you may not. It doesn't matter. What's important is that you start to recognize where you are on this healing journey and what is holding you back from naturally perceiving things as being safe rather than threatening. Okay, that's the inner turmoil that's going on right now, the inner war. It's between the conscious mind's perspectives and the unconscious mind's perspectives. The problem is that one, the subconscious side of us, has gathered so much information, and those actions based on its perspectives has been repeated so often with feeling behind it that it is leading the way. And so now, in this juncture, at this point in our lives, we are at a crossroads. We really are. And as anxiety sufferers, we can continue to live a life that is familiar, and we can continue to stand guard towards any of the perceived threats that we feel in the body, or we can change, really. And I do believe a lot of this change work does come down to choosing that you want to change. So with that said, let's get into what step one is on this transition. Okay, step one is the recognition of things that we weren't aware of before, such as patterns of thinking, core beliefs, daily acts that contribute to keeping us standing guard, right? So step one is like, bang, it's a slap in the face. I'm doing X and it's leading to Y result, all right? It could be an action. It could be an idea that you tend to contemplate and build upon, right? It could be a belief system that you realize, my God, this isn't even mine. Like, at this moment, I don't know where this belief came from, right? And as I set the intention to understand it more deeply, the answer will come to me in time. But in step one, we're going, wow, I am starting to recognize what I'm doing that's contributing to my emotional state, my negative emotional state, right? I no longer am allowed to blame anything in the outside world for how I feel on the inside. Okay, this is very important. Stop blaming everyone, your circumstance, your experiences for your anxiety, right? Because the moment you start to go, okay, I'm taking responsibility for this. There's some things that I'm doing consistently that I'm not aware of that's contributing to this feeling. The moment you do that, everything changes. That's 50% of the journey right there, right? It really is. It's this healing approach from the inside out rather than the outside in. So after we recognize things that we're doing that's contributing to how we're feeling, we go to step two, which is a choice, is consciously or unconsciously, without us knowing it, made to begin altering these old patterns based on the dissatisfaction we have with our current results on the inside. I tell this to a lot of people. You're at rock bottom, like I was, perfect. Now we can start. Now we can start, right? You weren't ready before. And many times in the past when I was doing sessions with people, you know, I had to twist, I had to poke that pain button even more to get people to rock bottom, right? If you don't change, what's your life going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? What kind of regrets are you going to have lying on your deathbed when you're 100? Right? I know you're afraid to look at your recent past and recognize what you were doing that wasn't contributing to your healing journey and what held you back in the past. I know you're afraid to do that, right? Because there's a certain level of comfort within living with anxiety. I know that feeling of safety, security, standing guard, right? Perceiving the world as threatening when in fact it's really safe. Okay, I know. So in step 2, we choose. We choose. Right? And the best time to make that choice is when you're at rock bottom. Totally dissatisfied. Totally dissatisfied with the results you're getting internally and possibly externally. But many anxiety sufferers have a pretty good life if you look at it from the outside. Right? They've got people that care for them, a steady career, right? A roof over their heads, food in their bellies. Right? Life is pretty good. Right? But it's from the inside out that has to change. So in step 2, we choose. We choose to go down another path. Step 3, after the choice, we attempt our change work. Okay? The change itself is not so much dependent on the type of action itself, but more so about our willingness to put our hearts into the change. This is important because everybody out there, the majority of people out there, are looking for the right way to change. What's the method? What's the technique? What's the information? What's the book? They think that the information lies outside of them. They think that it has to do with something they haven't tapped into yet. False. You've read enough books. You've listened to enough podcasts. You're following 1 million people on social media. Most of them you shouldn't be following. You should be following like 5 people, right? Things can get really complicated. So the method is dependent, or the effectiveness of the method is dependent on where you are emotionally, the intentions that you have set, and the repetition around the method. Okay, people come up to me and say, Dennis, you know, does EFT work? Does EMDR work? Does, you know, imagery work? Does traumatic healing work? Does CBT work? Does NLP work? Does hypnosis work? What do you think about X? I say yes. That's it. I say yes to all of them. They work, but do you work? Right? Can you work with the method, building a relationship with the method for a long enough period of time in order for it to work in your life? Okay, so this is important. You already have all the information, all the wisdom, all the intelligence you need on the inside to heal, but it's the defense mechanisms that are holding you back, which we're getting into in step 4. In step 4, we encounter defense mechanisms to change by the inner child. How we respond to them will determine whether we stay on track or fall back into our old ways. Setbacks are defense mechanisms. Okay, people go, oh, I had a setback. Good. That's great. Right? You should be proud that you had a setback. Right? You should be excited that you had a setback. I know, I'm changing the way you think about everything. That's a good thing, right? Because until we start to unlearn things, we're never going to learn new things. Okay, everybody out there is trying to learn something new related to their anxiety suffering, but we should be more focused on unlearning what we already think we know. Okay? So these defense mechanisms by the inner child, very opportunistic, right? Opportunistic. You meet a stranger, what happens? start sweating. That's a defense mechanism, right? You commit yourself to a certain method, and then you come up with all these rationales, these ideas as to how you won't be able to follow through, or you're in too deep in terms of your anxiety, therefore it won't work for you. You take some time off from healing, and then you put yourself back out there again. With a lot of anxiety sufferers keep going back and forth between committing and giving up. Right? Commit, give up, commit, give up, commit, give up. But the commitment isn't really a commitment. It's more so a feeling of putting your feet in that cold lake of water, but not really swimming. Right? So we have to be real with ourselves, my friends. This podcast isn't about sugarcoating anything. It's about saying, here's where you are in your life. Here's where you are with your thinking. Here's where you are in relation to your subconscious mind inner child. Right? The most important relationship that you have to build isn't with anybody on the outside. Nobody. I don't care how much they love you, because nothing comes close to the amount of love that the inner child has for you. The most important relationship is between you and your own inner child. I said this before. Treat your inner child and the feelings and the emotions and the perspectives that it comes up with throughout the day the same way you treat your own kids when their fears arise, and you will be free. Therefore, we already have the skills we need to be free. Right? So defense mechanisms by the inner child are good things. You're starting to guide rather than be led. Right? You're guiding the inner child because the inner child's gone through trauma. A lot of people out there say, my childhood was good. It doesn't matter how good your childhood was. What's important is to understand that from your subconscious mind's perspective, anything can be deemed a trauma. Anything can be learned as being a threat. Anything can be overwhelming. Anything. Even a color. Right? Even a person's haircut. So we have to respect these anxiety-driven perspectives from the inner child. We have to work with them. When our body gives us a feeling, when our body gives us a pain, right? It's not about, oh God, here's the pain. It's about, how can I work with this pain? What is the emotional roots that are causing this pain? These are better questions. Ask yourself a better question throughout the day, and you're going to get a better answer. Right? Then we go to step 5, clarity and wisdom arise. We perceive our childhood and more recent past differently from the eyes of a more mature belief system, and not one that's still running on limiting beliefs. Right? Most people are succumbing to this record player. This record player that continues to spur on beliefs from the past, and they continue to believe them and act on them, which only strengthens them, right? If you want to help your inner child relearn something about something, you have to take a different approach than what you're currently taking, because it's not working, right? One of the most important tools I recognized in my healing journey was to simply start writing down what wasn't working. Stop looking for something that's going to work for you, as I did. What's going to work? What's going to work? Spend thousands and thousands of dollars, right? And just take an inventory of morning, afternoon, evening, and even what's taking place while you're sleeping within your environment, who you're sleeping next to, their ideas, their beliefs, their energies that are moving into you. Take an inventory of what doesn't work, right? Because unfortunately with anxiety, one thing can set us back. One experience. One idea from somebody, one sentence from somebody, right? You don't even need to speak to someone. You are unconsciously always communicating with someone anyway. So as you're standing in the checkout aisle checkout lane in the grocery store, the person next to you is suppressing their traumas, suppressing their fears, overthinking, dreading the evening, right? And you're standing right next to them, within 6 feet of them. That's affecting you. So when you start to feel anxious and panicky, many times the reason isn't coming from within. It's coming from without, not within. But we tend to blame ourselves, don't we? So we have to understand what is affecting us negatively on a daily basis. This is very, very important. And then we go to step 6. In step 6, we find ourselves again. Hallelujah, I found myself again. And we understand the power of simplicity and being content with who we are and what we have. You will lose yourself. I'm telling you this now. There's going to get a point in your life where you go, who am I? I don't even know who I am. I have lost my reputation completely. I can't identify with anybody anymore. To that I say, welcome to freedom. Because when you finally stop looking to preserve this reputation and this identity of being anxious each and every day, you will be free. Now, in order to be free, you have to first be a nobody, not a somebody. Everybody out there is trying to be successful. We don't need more successful people. Forget success, right? Success is a byproduct of what takes place on the inside, okay? If you want to be successful, change everything on the inside at an unconscious level, okay? And we need more healers. We need more empathetic people. The sympathy is there, right? We need more people to write books. We need more people to connect with more people, right? In a way where they say, I understand what you're going through. And because I understand what you're going through, you have someone that you can trust. A lot of anxiety sufferers out there feel like they can't trust anybody because they don't understand where they've been. Okay? So we find ourselves again in step 6. Finally, we find ourselves again. And we realize the power of simplicity, keeping things simple and being content with what I have. What I have is more than enough. Where I am is more than enough. Who I have is more than enough. More than enough. These are things that you dreamed of once. Here you are. Right? It's all around you. And yet we still want more. We spend way too much time on social media, scrolling, doom scrolling, way too much time. Right? What's the latest tweet? What's the latest thing related to what's taking place around the world? Caught up, caught up, caught up, caught up. And then we realize, hey, where's my anxiety coming from? Well, take a good look. Take a really good look, right? Because we talk about anxiety being a reason based on past trauma. Yes, childhood trauma, generational trauma, past experiences, things we've learned, right? We realize that. We have to clean up our past. But through the things that you're doing in the present, you are perpetuating that anxiety. You are activating it constantly. Therefore, your system believes it needs to stay in this state. We have to work with this system. When our newfound respect and self-worth arises, welcome it in with open arms and give it your focus and attention for longer than you have been. Crucial. Remember that you are more, much more than anxiety. Head over to theanxietyguy.com today and learn more about my programs. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Have a wonderful day, a progress-filled day, because you deserve it. Bye-bye.